It all started with Obi-Wan Kenobi back in 1977.
Hello there.
The very first Jedi to grace theaters across the world as he started Luke Skywalker on his path to
Learn the ways of the Force.
become a Jedi. Now it's time to fire up those X-Wings as we take a trip back to September the 7th, 1996, where George Lucas revealed what exactly was going through Obi-Wan's mind whilst he was training Luke.
And he was a good friend.
However, you can't help but feel a little bit sorry for old Ben.
Before the dark times.
This snippet comes from a book I've been reading called The Star Wars Archives, which covers the making of episodes 1 to 3, where George Lucas also digs a little deeper into the original trilogy. Now, George begins by talking about the differing views on the Force between Qui-Gon and a young Obi-Wan and how it all built into his failure of training Anakin Skywalker.
Don't make me kill you.
A commitment that Obi-Wan made at the end of The Phantom Menace.
You will be a Jedi. I promise.
A commitment that would go on to doom the galaxy. This is something Obi-Wan couldn't quite get past, even all of those years later when we meet him in A New Hope. George goes on to say that ideas don't come into a story that easily. A lot of the time the characters have to say what you mean, and to do that the characters usually have to have different opinions about the idea so they can discuss it. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan disagree about using what one would call in mythological terms, the guide. Now right here, the term guide ultimately boils down to Qui-Gon trusting and following what he would call the will of the Force. As many of you will know, Qui-Gon was pretty far ahead of the other Jedi when it came to his understanding of the Force itself, and whilst Obi-Wan in his more advanced years also came to trust in and understand the Force a little bit more, in his younger years this wasn't the case.
You still have much to learn, my young apprentice.
And even as he got older, he never really reached Qui-Gon's level of understanding, in my opinion. One believes in the guide, the other one doesn't. When you're walking down the street and the beggar's on the street, one character takes the beggar along with them on the trip. And the other one says, why are you doing this? This is going to slow us down. This is not a wise thing to do. The first one says, yes, but this beggar is useful to us.
Can you take us there?
It's a classic mythological motif, but at the same time it's conflict. The characters have to grow, so what happens is that eventually the character that is very much against doing this has the obligation transferred to them. Now the beggar George refers to here actually covers two characters and much of Star Wars Episode 1. It's a concept that's first introduced with the meeting of Jar Jar Binks.
What's this?
A local.
And continued with the introduction of Anakin Skywalker.
I'm a person and my name is Anakin.
In Qui-Gon's view, Jar Jar would be helpful in navigating their problems down on Naboo, whereas Anakin Skywalker could play a much more important role in the future, as he could possibly be the prophesied chosen one himself. However, Obi-Wan didn't quite see it this way.
Why do I sense we've picked up another pathetic life form?
George goes on to say, in this case we have Qui-Gon, the mentor who takes on Anakin, and the Padawan Obi-Wan who thinks this is a bad idea, so we've got that dynamic between these two Jedi. At the end of the film, Obi-Wan takes on the obligation to train Anakin, one that he really can't fulfill because it's over his head. His inability to train this kid properly turns Anakin into
Darth Vader.
And drives the rest of the stories. Not only does he let his mentor down,
Promise me you will train the boy.
Yes, Master.
but it plays into the collapse of the Republic. This is why he feels obliged to try and rectify the situation with Luke. Okay, so whilst Obi-Wan comes across as a well put together older Jedi in episode 4, George makes it quite clear here that his motivations while starting Luke on the path of becoming a Jedi himself were to effectively right the wrongs of his past, and of course to give hope to the galaxy, as he knew the potential Luke possessed, but he also had in mind how he, in his own opinion, failed Anakin.
I have failed you, Anakin. I have failed you. I should have known the Jedi were plotting to take over.
Someone who also had extremely high potential. He felt like he let not only his master who entrusted him with this task down, but everyone the rise of Darth Vader and the Empire would go on to affect, the Jedi Order and also the Republic. However, I can't help but think that perhaps this wasn't Obi-Wan's fault at all. Perhaps it was Qui-Gon's poor judgment on Obi-Wan's ability to train Anakin that's to blame. Or perhaps it was the Jedi Council for allowing Obi-Wan to follow through on his promise to Qui-Gon in the first place, and not pairing up Anakin with a master who would be better equipped for the task, one that hadn't just graduated from Padawan themselves.
Your apprentice, Skywalker, will be.
Now a few names spring to mind, perhaps Plo Koon or even Master Yoda. Let me know in the comments who you think would have been a better choice to train Anakin. Now, George closed off this segment by explaining just why the stories in Star Wars resonated with us fans so much, and perhaps this should be something looked into a little more for future Star Wars stories to come. One of the reasons people connect to Star Wars so much is because the psychology of it is very old, whether it's knights in armor or Greek warriors or Western gunslingers. You're always telling the same story where you combine the larger cosmic and spiritual issues with the temporal issues of who you are and what your limitations are. I'm amazed people aren't telling these stories anymore. People have forgotten about the reason you tell a story. They just seem to tell it without any point to it. So there we have it. George Lucas revealed what Obi-Wan's true thoughts were while training Luke back on September 7th, 1996. And although much time had passed since Obi-Wan's duel with Anakin on Mustafar, it seems the events that transpired that day went on to haunt him for the rest of his life. So my question for you would be, who would have been a better master to train Anakin? Let me know down in the comments below. Remember to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'll catch you in the next one. May the Force be with you.